I'm Lauren with Pack Hacker, and today we're going to be taking a detailed look at the Matador Freerain22, which I've been testing for the last 2 weeks. Let's dive in. So I'm going to start off with a quick rundown of all of the materials because there's kind of a lot going on in this pack. Starting off, we have the 70D Robic nylon, which is this bottom part here. And this has a ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, and it's reinforced with like the ripstop for basically just added durability. I can kind of pull that up to you. You can't really tell a difference between this bottom material and the material up top here. But essentially what it is on this bottom here is that it's designed for more rugged wear and more rugged terrain. And since this is what's going to be touching the bottom or the ground if you're more outdoorsy, this is really great to have on that base there. As for the top, we have a 50D nylon with that mini ripstop. So you can see this ripstop pattern is obviously way more obvious, but this one here is very, very subtle. You can just kind of barely see it across the board there. So in general, it has a very sleek look to it. It kind of has like an outdoorsy feel, but without being kind of that more like boisterous, I guess, outdoorsy that I kind of like associate with outdoor packs. This is a little bit more sleek, which has that very Matador profile and feel to it. So looking at the rest of the materials here, we have YKK zips with a PU coating. There's a zipper here on the front, and then there's additionally a zipper up top in the roll top, which you will see eventually when we get there. And then there's a mix of Duraflex and YKK hardware. So there's a lot of hardware kind of all over this pack. You can see just by looking at it, looking at this harness system, we have a removable hip belt here. In addition to the sternum strap, this is also removable. I did have an issue where this side of it came off on me. So I was just leaving one morning. I didn't have it like strapped to me or anything quite yet. And I happened to look down and this part here was on the ground. So I'm not sure if, it just kind of came off. You can see that there's like a little bit of a lip to it just on the bottom there. So that, just even like messing with it right now, it's pretty sturdy. So I think it was just kind of one of those things where I just got it in the right spot for it to come off, because all you have to do is like lift it and pull it out. But like even me doing it right now, it's not working super well. So, I'm not exactly sure how it came off, but if you don't want to carry those or have the sternum straps all the time, those are removable in addition to the hip belt. They're just kind of added for you. And then you have some Hypalon along these straps as well, just sort of like accenting and acting as a place to attach gear. And then on top of that, these shoulder straps are like a really like meshy nylon. So they're on the stiffer side. You can see just like when I move that material, it kind of has like structure to it. So this makes it a little bit more difficult, I would say, to pack this bag up because it is a packable bag, but it is really comfortable on. So I can kind of show you how it fits. But one last thing up here, we have the load lifters. So in general, it is a pretty comfortable fit. Just gonna unbuckle this first. So showing you what it looks like on. Just put it on like normal. And then buckle yourself in with the sternum strap and then the hip belt as well. And that's pretty secure. And then if you want to adjust these load lifters even further, you can. So in general, you do have a lot of adjustment and a lot of just like security, I would say. It feels really sturdy on, and I really like these straps. They're really comfortable and like thick up here, and they just feel like they contour really nicely with my body. So in general, I really like the way that this fits. I would say that the negative is that with all of these like dangling straps all over the place, I do have strap keepers on this hip belt and then on the sternum strap, but the rest are just kind of like dangling around. And I found myself getting kind of lost. Like if I didn't have this on and I wanted to grab it, I'd be like grabbing back here and I'd grab here and I'd just kind of like always be grabbing what I didn't need to. So that's something that I just kind of ran into more often than not. But again, if you wanted to remove That hip belt is pretty easy. It just sort of loops through. So what you do is kind of give you that look there. It kind of has like one loop on one side. You just feed it through. And then you can pull that out of a loop right down at the bottom. So I'll do the other one really quick as well, just to kind of get them out of the way. Again, because it is so strappy, I personally liked it without the hip belt because I didn't really feel like I needed it that often either. So I'm just gonna set that off to the side, and then you just have like one less thing happening on the pack. So flipping out to this other side here, there is a PU waterproofing coating on this as well. The bag itself is really waterproof, but it's not submersible. So it's kind of like that in between where the materials and the coatings make it so that water just really rolls right off of it. And it did rain a fair amount when I was testing this. And every single time it was raining, it just like, the water just like beat it off really nicely. So if weatherproofing is something that's like your main concern, then this is really great for that, but it's not like a dry bag. So it's not like a technically waterproof bag where you can like shove it in the water. So this is just more so like if you're in raining conditions, then you're really gonna be covered with this. So looking at the front of it here, we have these two straps up top, and so these integrate with these straps on the bottom. If you want to carry like trekking poles or ice picks, if you are more active and outdoorsy, then this is a great way to carry that, and it's still like a really lightweight pack, so you don't have to kind of have those like bulky materials and still get that durability. So these here, they just unhook like that and they're looped around. So these never really got in the way of anything. If you wanted to attach other things here, you could, and then same with down at the bottom, but everything just kind of hangs out right in that single line. You can attach two different things. And then the front pocket here is a fairly large size. I have my wallet, phone, and keys in here. And even when this was fully packed out, you couldn't really see them in there. What's nice is even though it is kind of like a lumpier look, as most packable bags are, it still has a very nice structure to it when you do have a lot of things in here and a lot of gear. So you can see this pocket is fairly large. It goes all the way, essentially this entire front panel. So you can basically shove as much stuff as you want in here. I'm gonna set this off to the side because as we take things out, it's gonna get really floppy, as you will see. And then on the side, you also have two mesh water bottle pockets. So I have a 18 ounce, I believe, Yeti. Let me just double check here. Yep, 18 ounce Yeti. And this goes pretty nicely in here. It's a little bit snug, but I'd rather have it more snug than have water bottles just like flying out all over the place. So you can put other stuff in here if you have like a tripod or something. That's a great spot for that. But I mean, as you can see, it was pretty tight with just this Yeti. So the larger you get, the more difficult it's going to be to get things into those mesh pockets. But there are two, so if you wanted to double up, you could. Set that over to the side again. And then on the outside, I can kind of show you more of this like upper system as I open the bag. So yeah, we just ran through that really quickly. So let me actually get started on that now. So this roll top is secured on the sides with these two buckles. So we have the one buckle here and then the other buckle here. And then it just rolls open nice and easy. So these buckles just hang out until the pack or the bag is locked in. What you can also do is, because these are two different buckles, like they integrate with each other, they are the opposites, I guess, the pairs, you can really, like, if you wanted to, just roll this down and buckle it on itself if you wanted to just like really quickly do it. And it also kind of acts as like a handle. I mean, I wouldn't do this like super often, but there were a few times where I just needed to kind of like roll and go. And this worked out really great because I could just do this, secure it for now. It wasn't like, if I left it open, it would have just been flopping all over the place, right? So I was able to roll it down a little bit and then just kind of like take off and fix it later. And I really liked that. It was thoughtful to have these integrated versus just having, them match the counterparts on the bottom. So that was a nice, thoughtful feature. And then here as well, we have compression straps that just really kind of further lock things in and then also act as a security point for anything that you store in here. So if you store a tripod and it's going to be a lot longer, or any other sort of gear, then if it's going to be on the taller side, you can lock it in with this strap here pretty easily. So, and that is on both sides, but I, for the most part, like in daily use, didn't really need them. I just kind of kept them as big or as small as I wanted, and then just sort of honestly ignored them. But we can get into the main compartment here. So as I mentioned, there was a zipper up here. This one too is YKK, and all of the zipper pulls and any sort of pull has like a little Hypalon tab at the bottom that's like heat shrunk. Very sleek, nice and easy to grab onto. And so this opens nice and simple. This sort of acts as like, if you wanted to pack this out entirely, this is 22 liters. It's in the name, so it's kind of hard to forget, but it's 22 liters of space. And if you wanted to really take advantage of as much space as humanly possible, then you're gonna have like all of this extra like room up top without that roll. And so what's nice about the zipper is that you can start to continue, or you can continue packing up until essentially this point. And then as long as you can get it zippered closed, you can have like this entire profile to work with essentially. And that's really nice if you do want a lot of variety, but in general, I really found myself needing about that much space. So they say when you roll it to like do like 1, 2, 3, and then lock it down. I essentially rolled it as much as I wanted to. When I rolled it like more than that, you start to get into the straps and you'll start to like roll the straps into it. So that's something to keep in mind. But what I did do sometimes, if I really like didn't have that much that I was carrying with me and I didn't want that like floppier look, then I would just loosen up these load lifters and then have a little bit more space to like pull down and work with. So it didn't look amazing, but it felt a lot better. And I didn't feel like, you know, if it was only full to here, then I just had like a ton of extra space up at the top. I can lock it down like a little bit more. So now getting into the main compartment, we have just a simple opening. Here you have a tag with additional information, just kind of in general, like wash instructions. Here it says, as a reminder, do not submerge. And then here is a 1, 2, 3 step process. I can bring that up a little bit closer. It's a 1, 2, 3 step process to be able to just remind you essentially how to roll it up. It reminds you like roll 3 times forward, lock it in, then you're good to go. So the rest of this pack is fairly simple. The inside we have taped seams, which just helps with that weatherproofing and the waterproofing on the outside here. I had no issues with water getting in or anything like that. And then on the inside here, I'll show you kind of what I have packed out. I have a hoodie, 2 packing cubes, a tech pouch, and a laptop in a laptop sleeve. I have a 13-inch laptop. So overall, that's pretty much everything that I have in there. You can see otherwise it's just an empty pit. I do have one last thing in there, and it's the mesh container that this packs into, so I'll show you how to pack it up in a second. But essentially you just have a big empty space to work with. So that's either a good or a bad thing depending on what you want. There's no laptop sleeve or anything, which is why I have mine in a separate case. So that's something to keep in mind if you travel with tech a lot. This might not be the best option for you unless you have additional tech protection. But in general, you can, like, I would just stick this in there, maybe a notebook or 2, and then shove everything else I needed in, either in like a packing cube or just like extra layers. And I still had, you know, a ton of packing space to work with, and it rounded it out really nicely. I did feel though that if I didn't have a ton in here, you know, if I just had my laptop and then I layered a couple of like notebooks, but not really any additional like puffy layers to add space, it kind of flopped all over the place and got a little hard to load. So I would say this pack really thrives if you have more to add than less, but that is just sort of by its packable nature. There's no, you know, back panel, there's none of that stuff that's going to give it that extra structure. So I'll show you how to pack this up. Just going to zip this back up here and kind of move this stuff off to the side. So it fits into here, and if you forget how to do it, they have their little mesh packaging has step-by-step instructions. So it says with back panel facing up, fold in thirds vertically, shoulder straps inside, roll tightly from top, tucking in straps, insert rolled pack sideways into this compression bag, cinch toggle tightly to compress. So fairly simple. in theory, I struggled with this. I struggle with a lot of packable bags. I think when they get into like a really compressible container, for me, it's like packing like a sleeping bag back into its container, right? Like I feel like I can never fully get it to how small it needs to be. So it does take a little bit of practice. I can kind of show you how I end up doing it. So what I will do is I'll lay everything as flat and like even as possible so that I don't end up with like a lot of lumpy areas. And this, keep in mind too, is without these straps attached. They don't add a ton. It's just a little extra like, a little extra like nylon to work with at the bottom here. So it's not a huge issue. It doesn't like make or break the packability. So what I do is fold it into thirds. You keep the straps locked down that way. And then I kind of use this as like a size marker. So I'll like put this over the top of it and I'll be like, okay, you know, this is obviously as wide as it can possibly go. And I make it a little bit wider so that it easily fits within this shape, because this shape is really wide but very shallow, which is part of my issue with it. So starting off here, just starting to roll nice and tightly, just wrap them together. Wrap it as tight as possible because you're going to need as much compressibility as possible. Loop that in. Just kind of tuck straps as you go to make sure that everything's good. And then putting that with that last little bit facing down so that it's nice and secure. It fits in there great, but then this is where it gets a little bit sticky for me. So I'm, you know, pulling this nice and taut, but then say I want to let go to be able to, you know, cinch this up fully. If I let that go, that gets loose like immediately. So what you kind of have to do is like I'm trying to, you know, hold this down while also pulling this tight, but then you kind of got to like hold it here and then cinch it up a little bit as well and get it to the point where you can really start to lock it in. So in general, that's kind of like a small issue, but I think I would have liked to see a little bit more security just from this like top part, only because, you know, the second I put this in here, you can see it's kind of slowly starting to expand. So my natural instinct is to really want to push that in, but I need two hands to do it and I need two hands to cinch. So again, just kind of holding it tight and doing it that way. So not a huge deal in the scheme of things. You can still get it into this pretty low profile, but that's something to keep in mind when you're packing it up. If you have a buddy to be able to help you, just like an extra set of hands, like when you're wrapping a gift and you need to like have somebody hold the bow while you tie the bow, like that's kind of the feeling that I get from this. You can do it yourself, but it's just not as fun. So overall, very nice, very packable. If you wanted to keep this in your bag, if you're going on like a larger trip, we're going to be doing a lot of outdoor activities, but you want to just bring this inside your travel pack, packs down nice and small, and it's only about 300 grams. And so you've got a decent sized package to work with. So there you have it, the Matador Freerain22. Thanks for keeping it here at Pack Hacker, your guide to smarter travel, and we'll see you in the next one.